The whole idea about Rigiji, Ndindi Nyoro, Nyoro is to sabotage the country's economy, to ensure that the country's economy reaches a point of menopause.
Ladies and gentlemen, UDA Secretary General Omar Hassan just went on cameras and accused the people around Ndindi Nyoro of deliberately sabotaging Kenya's economy, injecting 3 billion shillings to destabilize it.
Kini maarifa yetu, Mbadi amekuja, amestabilize shilingi, amestabilize inflation, tumeinvest in production over subsidies. Ukisikia kila mtu anasema subsidize, Uhuru ulikuwa kila mara akikwambia subsidize, kwa vile Uhuru alikuwa ni fisadi. Kampuni za ngano ni zake, anajisubsidize mwenyewe. Kampuni za mafuta ni zake, anajisubsidize mwenyewe. Fisadi. Sisi we are moving from subsidies to funding production. That's what we are doing as a government. That is our policy. That is our point, our standpoint. Kwa hivyo,
then turn around and defended Ruto's record. This is not an opposition attack. This is a ruling party. Officials exposing a war inside the house, and that shows terrified you. UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar went public with a direct accusation that certain individuals injected 3 billion shillings specifically to destabilize Kenya's economy and create conditions of failure. Hassan pointed fingers at forces linked to Ndindi Nyoro. This was not an opposition statement. This came from inside the ruling party's own leadership structure. Here is what UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar said on record. First, that individuals associated with the likes of Ndindi Nyoro and Rigathi Gachagua injected 3 billion shillings into the economy with the deliberate intention of causing economic sabotage, specifically to destabilize the shillings and create an environment of failure that could be blamed on the current administration. Secondly, Hassan Omar defended the Ruto's government economic record directly. The Secretary General claimed the government has stabilized the Kenyan shillings, brought down inflation, and shifted the policy from subsidies to investment in production. Hassan's argument was that the previous administration under Uhuru Kenyatta used subsidies as a cover for personal enrichment, citing with company and fuel companies that Kenyatta allegedly owned personally, meaning subsidies flown back to the former president himself. Thirdly, Hassan Omar turned the language debate into a political weapon. When Ndindi Nyoro's camp suggested that ordinary Kenyans do not understand English, Hassan responded by switching between Kiswahili, physiological Swahili, and what he called Kimombo, his term from street level English, to demonstrate that UDA leadership communicates across all levels. The point was pointed. Do not lecture us about who understands what. What this exchange reveals is a deepening fracture inside UDA. Omar Hassan is not a backbencher. The UDA Secretary General is the party's chief administrative officer. When someone at that level goes on camera to name an internal faction and accuse it of economic sabotage, the ruling coalition is no longer just managing policy disagreement. It is actually managing open internal warfare. Omar Hassan's statement is one of the most extraordinary things a ruling party official has said publicly in Kenya in recent memory. The UDA Secretary General did not criticize the opposition. Hassan accused members of the president's own political orbit of spending 3 billion shillings to destroy the economy from within just to make Ruto look incompetent. If that accusation is true, Kenya is not being governed by one united administration. It is being pulled apart by competing factions who are willing to harm ordinary Kenyans to settle their internal scores. And if the accusation is false, then the UDA Secretary General just went on cameras and fabricated a conspiracy against a senior figure in President Ruto's own party. Either way, someone at the top of Kenya's ruling party is lying, and ordinary Kenyans are paying the price for whichever version is true. The hard question is, if UDA owns Secretary General is publicly accusing people within the ruling party of injecting such a large amount of shillings to sabotage Kenya's economy, why has no arrest been made, no investigations open, and no name placed before a court? Think about that. What is at stake here is not a party scramble. It is the credibility of Kenya's entire economic narrative. The government has been telling Kenyans that the fuel price, inflation, and the weak shillings are the results of the global pressure and inherited debt from previous regime. But now, the UDA Secretary General is saying part of the problem was deliberate internal sabotage by people inside the ruling coalition. Every Kenyan who paid more for unga, more for transport, more for rent over the last 2 years deserve to know, was that pain accidental or was it engineered by people who were supposed to be running the country on their behalf? Ndindi Nyoro has not responded to Hassan's 3 billion shillings accusation. No investigation has been announced. The president has not spoken on the internal UDA tension and the fracture between the Hassan camp and the Nyoro camp inside the ruling party is not getting smaller. Watch whether Ndindi Nyoro responds directly. Watch whether the 3 billion shillings claim is ever put before investigators or will quietly disappear. Watch whether this public exchange is the beginning of a formal split inside UDA ahead of the 2027 general election. Because ruling party do not collapse from outside. They collapse from exactly this, the moment insiders start accusing each other on camera and nobody at the top says stop.